So, a very good evening to all of you. I really hope you all can hear me and see me. As these days, young planners are seeking more knowledge and additional exposure to this planning world, YPF came up with this solution, which is the Knowledge Cafe webinar series with the theme of shared knowledge for a better world. So, as we all know, we have successfully completed first two webinars of the series with young resource persons who were PhD candidates. And now we thought this is the right time for you to give the chance to engage with a versatile personality, with a professional who can share his extraordinary journey with you. So, without taking too much time, let me introduce the resource person for the third webinar of the Knowledge Cafe webinar series. He is currently a lecturer in University of Moratuwa, and also he was a project secretary of Faculty of Architecture of University of Moratuwa, and he was an urban planner in the Department of Transport and Logistics Management of University of Moratuwa, and he too was the assistant director of the Management and Science University, which is also known as Colombo campus, and he was urban planning consultant in the World Bank also. When he was schooling, he played badminton for his school, Richmond College Golf, and when he was an undergraduate, I'm very proud to say he is an undergraduate. He was an undergraduate of University of Moratuwa in the Department of Town and Country Planning. So he was an executive committee member of the World University World University Science of University of Moratuwa, Sri Lanka, and also he was the Secretary of the Architecture Faculty Student Union of Moratuwa University, and also when he was an undergraduate, he was an exchange student for the La Trobe University in Australia, Faculty of Humanities and Social Sciences, and he completed his MBA in University of Moratuwa in Technology Management, and he just completed his doctorate in Nagoya University of Technology in Japan as a Doctor of Philosophy in Engineering, Logistics, Materials, and Supply Chain Management. So, without taking too much time, let me introduce the extraordinary character, Dr. Chathura De Silva, for the third webinar of the Knowledge Cafe webinar series. Doctor?
Okay. Thank you very much, Rutisha, for the very lengthy and I was listening first time for my own profile. Anyway, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you and we can see you properly.
Okay. Okay. First of all, good evening, everyone. Good evening from Japan here. And as you introduced me, probably I'm talking to some of group of young planners here, and which is nothing new to me because myself is a lecturer from the University of Moratuwa and also work with a lot of people here in Young Planners Forum. So it's not a new place for me to talk. And first of all, I should thank Mr. Dilshan and all the executive committee of the Young Planners Forum for their initiative to organize various programs. So, which is a positive thing to improve the planning profession in Sri Lanka. So please keep it up going. It's very important to have knowledge, share knowledge, and also to have continuous events to engage the participants also. And well, okay. Uh, right now, probably you must be thinking why I'm here in Japan, right? Even I finished my PhD. Actually, I'm a victim of COVID-19 where I'm waiting for a flight to return back. So hopefully I can return back soon. Uh, okay. Yes. Dilshan told me it will be like a 1 hour session. So what I was thinking to talk maybe 20 to 25 minutes, and probably we can use the rest of the time to have discussion to discuss about anything related to the topic or anything else you wish to talk. Okay. The topic that I'm going to talk today is actually partially influence from the doctoral thesis which I was doing in Japan. And also I felt it will be a new topic, and I'm not sure how far we can understand it with the examples from Sri Lanka, but still probably during the discussion we can spend time to understand how the implication for Sri Lankan context, because what I'll be going to talk here will be examples derived not from Sri Lanka, so based on several other places. Anyway, feel free to raise any questions and discuss and learn something new. Someone, can you please confirm when I share my screen whether it can be visible to everyone? Okay, is the screen visible to everyone?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. Uh, just a moment. Yes. Okay. The topic I'm going to talk today is e-commerce, logistics, and cities. And actually, this is a very broad topic by when you look at the title itself. But what I'm going to talk today is basically outlining some of the basic concepts, and also I'm going to share some of the examples derived from developed world. What I call developed world is not developed country, but basically developed systems. And also I would like to share some thoughts and some reflective thoughts on how this type of theme can be uh, applied in the context of Sri Lanka. So this will be the outline of the talk today. First of all, I'm going to introduce what is e-commerce, what I mean by e-commerce here, and what is e-commerce logistics. And second, relevance to urban and regional planning. And then contemporary trends related to technological advancement in the sector of e-commerce and logistics. And thoughts for future with reference to Sri Lanka, and also finally the concluding remarks. Let's move the first one. Okay. I would start with the pandemic itself, because we all suffer from the pandemic wherever we live right now. So one of the key buzzwords which came through in with the COVID-19 is the new normal lifestyles. So we all know this image here which I shared is this is what the Japanese government advised for us. They say avoid closed spaces, crowded places, and close contact settings. In addition to these health guidelines, there are other things which really characterize our lifestyle these days. No? So one is like physical human networking. We always say, okay, don't meet each other, but instead you try to do social networking. Social networking before was an alternative. Now it's becomes a mainstream of communication. And work at office, you go to office every day or go to university. But right now it's about work from home. Don't come to our office or don't come to university. Don't come to classes. Stay home, join online. And another interesting fact is that we usually, when we want to buy things, we go to shop and buy, shop, search, and buy. But right now, what is more probably in Sri Lanka also is that various channels you order, and then the items are delivered to home. So basically, the what I mean here as e-commerce, the probably not the e-commerce itself, but what is happening in an e-commerce operation is order and delivery. You don't basically go to a shop buy physically, but you order through a different channel, and the products are delivered to your home as parcels. So this is third one is actually the somewhat relevant to the topic of e-commerce or e-commerce itself. So what is e-commerce? E-commerce is about buying and selling goods and services using the internet. So there are two things, basically goods and there are also services. For example, I think we all can understand what we mean by goods, the products, the physical products. The services, there are e-services. For example, we all know in Sri Lanka, we have e-channeling systems, e-ticketing systems, and various other systems where we can get our services done using the internet. And over the years, there's a there's a rapid growth in this e-commerce sector. There are different ways it happens. Actually, e-commerce is a very big, very broad topic itself. But there, in the sector itself, there is a rapid growth. And so, if you look at this diagram here, it's about like you basically do the shopping activity or searching the products without visiting the physical store, and then basically the products will be delivered home. Now we all know in Sri Lanka, maybe when we order something online, probably it may take 1 or 3 days. But when you look at the other places in the world, for example, in some cities in the world, when you order something online, it will be delivered to your house within 2 hours. So the time of delivery depends on where you order, what you order. So what we need to understand is like it's not always taking days. It is at a level where it takes hours to deliver it to your home. So it varies at different places. And this is a little data about like how the e-commerce sector is growing in the world. It's a kind of a look, as you can see, it's a kind of an exponential shape where it is growing. And when you look at the type of e-commerce business models, like there are different ways where we can classify it. One way of classification is based on who basically do the business and who are the end consumer. There are B2C, business to consume customers, and business to business, customers to customer. For example, like if you know like sites like Alibaba or maybe Amazon itself is B2C, where you order from the company will deliver to individual customers. Business to business is something happen at a very large scale, at a very different level. And C2C, very good example probably you can know is eBay. There's something that one customer is going to sell it and another customer is going to buy that one. And also it can also be classified based on whether it's a pure online company or whether it's an omni-channel retail company. Now, pure online company refer to company or a firm which only do the e-commerce business. Like that means they don't have a physical store, but they only do their retailing activity through online channel. Omni-channel retailing is existing physical store. That means they already have a commercial area, maybe a shop in the city. So they also move to e-commerce. Now, one good example I can probably during this presentation, I'll be using some company names, not to market them, but I will share them as examples. That the Keels, that they have like something channel called online shopping. So you can either go to the shop.
Doctor,
Yes.
if you excuse me a minute,
Yeah.
we are allowing participant to ask questions right away when you explaining this. So if
Yeah.
anyone have a question about the things explaining here, you can just type your question to the chat box, and our doctor will explain and give you the answers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So the second one, this is the third one which I moving my cursor here is local and transboundary. There are e-commerce happen within a particular country, or there are e-commerce happen between countries, which we call transboundary. Somewhere, for example, like we use eBay. eBay is a transboundary where the product will come from anywhere in the world. And also e-commerce logistic operation. Now this one is a topic, actually the main classification actually, which is relevant to the topic, the study which I did here, that e-commerce can also happen. Like most of us think e-commerce is all about just buying something online, but actually there's one more step further. E-commerce can happen with logistic operation. That logistic operation refer to how the particular product will be delivered to your house. It's not about the putting a click, but how it is delivered to your house. And there are companies who do e-commerce business with whole logistic package. That means they take care of the product till it reach the end consumer. Or else there are e-commerce just a marketplace. That means it's about just clicking and ordering something. The how it is delivered is taken care by someone else. This is an example I'm going to share. One of my friends from Russia, she was from these clubs of this city, which I highlighted here. She ordered one from Alibaba, and it was shipped origin from the China, and it took 12 days to come to her house. Like this is her house, city, and this is China. See how it is close. Why it took so long? And same product she as an experiment she ordered from Amazon, like it delivered to her house within 2 days. So what happens here? What's the difference here? Why one company took 12 days while the other company only took 2 days for it? The difference here is that Alibaba is an example for just the online marketplace. That means they are not taking care of the logistic operations. In contrast, Amazon, their e-commerce model comes with the logistic. So they take care of the logistic. That means they are responsible and they invest a lot to make sure that the product is delivered to the customer on with the shorter time. That means if you order it today, within 2 days, maybe 3 days. But there is a price difference. If you order something from Alibaba, of course, it's something very cheap, but the delivery time is longer. So everything comes at a cost. It's a matter of what you really want, whether you need it very fast or whether you need something very cheap. So what I want to emphasize here, there are different business models which we can differentiate based on whether the e-commerce company have a logistic arm. And when we look at the different segments of logistic facility, now I start talking about the word logistics. There's something called first mile logistic and the last mile delivery logistic. First mile logistic is that from the producer to the vendor. Now vendor here is the e-commerce company. Then the last mile delivery logistics, that is from the vendor to the end customer. And the special type of logistics used for this e-commerce business are called fulfillment centers. Now, this is something very new to the logistic industry, the fulfillment centers. So their location and the size vary between the different purpose. Different fulfillment centers for different purposes. So their size also vary. And the last mile delivery happen through different channels, maybe two-wheelers, delivery trucks, autonomous vehicles, or drones. So probably don't worry about this. We can discuss further on these items in the coming slides. And this is a differentiation between a traditional retail channel where raw materials manufactured and then the products, and it comes to a shop and the customer goes to the shop and buy it. But in the e-commerce, the same product kept at this FC is a fulfillment center and it is delivered to the end customer. So you can understand, like in principle, what is the difference between the traditional commerce model versus the e-commerce model, and what aspect change, especially this segment. And also probably as planning community, probably we are not so keen to differentiate between, like maybe we will call warehouses or distribution centers as just a warehousing or maybe industrial, but there are detailed classification within this sector to understand what are the different characteristics. So when I this comparison is about what are the aspects of distribution centers and the fulfillment centers. One of the interesting things here is this one, the packagings. Now, usually in the traditional distribution centers, we store and the products in pallets, maybe in large quantity. But in fulfillment centers, it's in boxes. That means like small parcels. And those fulfillment centers are usually automated with robots and very well advanced technologies, and it's about small orders. So the objective of fulfillment center is to ensure that the product is delivered to the customer with a shorter lead time, shorter delivery time. So on the right side, you can see now this Amazon is one of the pioneering companies in e-commerce in the world, because we all know in Sri Lanka that It started as a bookseller, but now they have gone to a level where they really dominate the e-commerce industry, and now by in different ways they do that. Now these are some of the pictures from their fulfillment centers. Now you can see here, this looks like factories. These are massive buildings, massive structures with robots and all automated systems. What happens here is not production something. That means raw materials are not converted into products, but basically this end products, it's about like shipments, where it's going to be shipped. So it's a very new industry. We are like still a lot of research still being doing on this new typology. Okay, uh, let's think about our own experience. Maybe how many of you shop online? Why you do that? And what you always look through a shopping experience? Is it about buying something which is not available in the physical store, or are you looking for something cheaper? Are you looking for something to be delivered to your home so you don't have to carry it with you from the shop? Or what are the other reasons which will make you shop online? I'm pretty sure that the young people must be ordering things online. So think of what is the reason why you exactly order them. And when you order something online, what you look for? Do you always look for alternatives, cost? You'll also look at the time it takes to deliver to your home or the office. Or how do you consider the shopping experience? So think of what you always look for. This is something that we all can think of based on our own experience wherever we are from. And with that little introduction on e-commerce and the e-commerce logistics, I will move into the second section of the presentation, where I'm going to talk about how these trends are related to urban planners, or maybe the planning professionals. Now, this is a conceptual diagram uh, which can introduce you one of two basic things. Now, from the consumer's perspective, if people tend to buy online, that means their personal travel to shop will be reduced. So that means the mobility pattern, the travel behavior of people will change, right? On the other side, the business side, when they have e-commerce logistics, that means when they have infrastructure to deliver it to your house, that means from a shopping experience, when you look at this whole diagram, you will see more trucks in the city, or maybe more motorbikes in the city than people, because somebody should carry it to your home. So from the business side, the freight transport related to the transportation of goods. So in e-commerce, what we can expect is we can expect the personal travel to be reduced while the freight transportation to be increased. So this is a conceptual illustration. So looking at this one more deeper, we all know that shopping is not just about buying things, no. It's also a social activity where we interact with other people and we enjoy different things. But when consumers are shifting from physical store to online buying, but I'm talking about a scenario where we cannot expect everyone, all consumers, all people to be online. But let's think of a scenario if people like step by step or gradually shifting to online means, will the commercial spaces in our cities will be still attractive? We all know that probably you must be, or some of you working for urban development authority and different places, like commercial spaces are the places are in the heart of the city. Because why usually the land price of commercial spaces are very high. But what happens when the consumers tend to find online channels? Will these commercial spaces will be still attractive? And the second point, how community mobility patterns in cities will change. So with this uh, change, a shift from physical store shopping to online, what happens to personal travel behavior? And the third point, this is not an isolated thing, no. There are many other things happening in parallel to this e-commerce development. There are like work from home, and there are like, for example, like channels like Zoom, so we can work from home. So there can be differences, or there can be shift in choice of residential location, choice of industrial location. So there's an aggregate effect, not just in isolated effect. So what happens? So we all need to think of, because why I put this third point specifically. Before this COVID-19, we all thought that Zoom and social networking, e-commerce as alternatives. What happens with the pandemic? This becomes the mainstream or main mode of conducting the business. For example, like maybe the students cannot learn unless they don't have a Zoom platform, because the universities and the schools need to function. If you cannot go to the shop, there has to be a way that things delivered to you. The humans always love interactions. So we expect that, okay, at least we experience today that new forms of lifestyle can happen. Looking at the other side of the coin, e-commerce firms with logistic facilities. Now, where will these logistic facilities will be established? What can be the outcomes? We all know this looks like warehouses or industrial sector. We all know in planning theory, industrial sector activities usually locate not in the middle of the city, maybe on the periphery of the city. Will the e-commerce companies always choose the peripheral areas of the city, or will they be demanding or fighting for the spaces in the middle of the city? What we expect? What can happen? And will this development compatible with existing planning guidelines and zoning? And how delivery channels, more trucks will affect the city? As I mentioned earlier, growth of an e-commerce is always visible when you have more trucks or more motorcycles which carry products from one place to an end consumer. There is also an equity issue, which I'm not going to talk much. What happens? For example, let's take this situation to an example. There are areas, maybe probably those who are living in Colombo, if you order something, it may be delivered to you within 2 or 3 days. There are areas even in Sri Lanka where products may take like 4 or 5 days to deliver, because you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the logistic system to cater such a range of area. So it is an equity issue, because one person benefits where the other one doesn't. So from a policy perspective, we need to make sure that everyone's needs are satisfied, right? So these are basic needs. And this is also just putting things to a one framework. So the relevance can be understood at different levels: strategic planning, maybe at a regional scale, and also local planning at a local land use planning at a local scale. At the same time, there is transportation planning, where we also can look at where these facilities are located, what can be the effect on transportation, how the traffic will change, whether our transportation infrastructure is enough to cater these trends. Like maybe you have seen in various documentaries, like in the cities in the world where there are a lot of e-commerce, there is a issue of congestion, right, created by the trucks who stop at different places in the middle of the city. So there are different uh, issues rising from that type of situations. And so there are a range of things that we need to understand when something like this maybe encroach, or maybe coming into invading our cities. We have to both look at the positive side of it and also the negative side of it. What I've found so far in the literature also is that this is an area where we know that it is important to find out, but we still finding ways to learn about this. And so with this second part of presentation, this is also a very brief introduction to this subject. I'm trying to make it related to the this e-commerce and planning. I'm trying to combine and see what is the effect and why it is important for us to learn. The third one is a third topic is, what are these trends? Like basically, I will use next 3 to 4 slides to talk about some of the examples from my own work, to show you like this is what type of trends happening with related to the location patterns and also location characteristics, and also emergence of e-commerce clusters, and also innovations in logistic facility sector. Now, one example. Now, this is another example for I'm taking Amazon. I studied Amazon as a case study. So this is how their fulfillment network or the logistic capacity is changing over the years. If you look at, I didn't map the US here because it may be somewhere here, very, way up, because they invest a lot on the logistic sector. Total capacity, not only Amazon, but there are other companies who invest on this sector, uh, like the real estate developing sector, like probably you might know some of the world leading retail sectors, like uh, the name I forgot, which invest on this sector very much. And the second point, the high and medium sized cities. Now, this is also very interesting. Traditionally, we expect the distribution centers to, or maybe warehouses to locate in low density areas. But what I have found is that they also locate in high and medium sized cities. So that's very, very controversial to our traditional understanding that warehouse is an activity in low size or low densities. And location of the fulfillment center was the traditional location facilities. Now this is also related to the second point. Now this is an example of from UK. Now on the right side, you can see the total number of warehouses in UK. You can see the distribution pattern where it's more concentrated in this region. Don't worry about the name of the region, but just look at the distribution pattern here. So this area. But when you look at the Amazon fulfillment centers, they are also started to appear in this region. The simple reason, if you look at the population distribution, there's large concentration on this region. So they basically follow where people live, not just the cheap land available. So fulfillment centers locations are quite similar to how people establish commercial or maybe physical stores. It's how far close to people. So you can see clearly an emergence of a new areas which are more attracted to locate e-commerce logistic facilities. And the second one, now probably you might learn about site redevelopments. Now these two examples are from Japan. Now this site, you can look at from its characteristics, it looks very high density region. Now this is, look at the size of the fulfillment center. Look at the size of all other buildings around and look at the size of this. Now, same thing in Odawara, another city, similar pattern. So it's high density region, area, you suddenly see a large development. So this is really characterize how far fulfillment centers are reaching for high and medium sized area, medium densities areas, rather than going to very low density, very areas of the city of the city or region. So, and if you look at the size of these buildings, so these are immense. Maybe the size is like maybe 3 or 4 soccer stadiums, so which is huge. If you can see itself from this from the satellite image itself, how far it is fitting into the context. And not only these single changes, there are also examples of the emerge of formation of logistic clusters. That means entire city or entire pocket, urban pocket, is a e-commerce logistic cluster. So which is also a new phenomena which we have not seen previously. Now, what I mean here as a logistic cluster is similar to an industrial park. That means there are a lot of companies, a lot of firms who do the same business and locating in a close proximity. We all know about the economies of scale of why firms choose to locate close to each other. So the same feature is visible in this sector. So change of existing land use and compatibility with surrounding land uses. Now, the second point, I also just let you think for a minute. Like if you are having a house here, think of having such development here. How do you feel? Now, this development means you expect a lot of trucks every day to come and go, because it is a place of origin of products which will be delivered to an end consumer living somewhere else. So imagine the situation. And physical accessibility is found to be very key feature of determining this location. Now, we all know that in industrial theory that firm usually choose to locate in where they have the cheap factors, maybe cheap land, cheap labor, maybe access to markets comes maybe second or third, not the first. But when it comes to the e-commerce fulfillment centers, what I found so far was that they locate at places how faster they can reach the end consumer. This also depend on the transportation infrastructure and the cost of transportation at particular location. Now, these are some of the other examples for logistic clustering drawn from, I think this is from US, that Amazon warehouse instead of offices. So, and the right side is a new industry is beginning to thrive in rural America with Amazon leading the way. I think in America, e-commerce, when you talk about the e-commerce in America, Amazon share a large proportion. It is the same in Japan. It's almost account for 20% of e-commerce sales. So they are, we learn in the business that there are pioneers. That means who set the trend for particular industry. Now, Amazon is an example for such a firm who set a trend in e-commerce with a logistic arm in their operation. These are some of the morphological illustrations to show the emergence of clusters. Now, these are not in high density areas, but basically in rural America, how the logistic clusters are emerging. Okay, let's move to the third part of this section, the rate technology advancement. Now, what you see here in this picture is a multi-level, they call it multi-level fulfillment center for unmanned aerial vehicles. Now, this is again a new logistic facility, which they already obtained the US patent. Now, what you see here, the small ones, are the drones. So what happens in this building is it's a place, the products are stored here, and when there is an order, it will be delivered through a drone, aerial delivery. So this is a new typology where they deserve the obtain the patent. And we all know that, okay, drones usually we heard in Sri Lanka as a way of maybe photography or maybe emergency supplies, but this is drones used for parcel delivery with a dedicated infrastructure for that. I just heard that they are planning to set up one in US and one in UK real establishment. So we have to wait and see how it's going to come through. And this one is also very interesting. It's an airborne fulfillment center. That means the fulfillment center is not on the land. It will be basically like a balloon. So this also have the US patent. That having a patent means it is accepted as an innovation, and there is a chance, there is a high possibility that it comes as a real operation. So you can see here, this is the airborne fulfillment center, and again through the drones, the product will be delivered to the city. So this is like the feeder which takes products and store here, and when there is an order, it will be delivered to the city. So we don't know when this comes through, but we have to wait and see. Okay, the final section. We talk about e-commerce, we talk about relevance to urban planning, and let's try to share some thoughts. Actually, these are not from empirical work, but just thoughts based on our experience to see how e-commerce in Sri Lanka at present. We all know that we all experience the growth in e-commerce service sector, that like e-channeling and online ticketing, which is we see a rapid growth, and also characterized by a few large size firms and many small scale firms. Now, what I mean by many small scale firms, there are individuals who carry out online businesses. So there are a lot. If you look at the Facebook, if you look at, if we just browse with the .lk domain, there are a lot of small scale operations, but most of them doesn't have a logistic arm. Maybe 99%, I would say. Just the e-commerce marketplace. So the product may take maybe 1 week, 2 weeks, 7 days, or 8 days, which we don't know, and operate with minimum use of logistics and range of informal delivery channels. Now, what I mean by informal delivery channels is, it's very interesting that maybe some of you also experience who takes the product to your home? Sometimes it's carried by an individual in a bag, and he comes in a bus. I can remember once I ordered some books when I was in Sri Lanka, and I can remember there was a person just calling me and asking, how can I come to your house from the main road? So I asked him, like, are you coming in a vehicle? No, he said just coming from the bus. So very informal, like not like they don't worry about the speed, but it's all about delivering it to the end consumer. And recent rise in online ordering of foods. I don't know how many of you do Uber Eats, order something online and it is delivered to, maybe through a phone call, and it will be delivered to you. And these are some of the images to show that some of the trends, some of the things we see in the with related to e-commerce in Sri Lanka. So, and how do you expect things to change? Given a 20 million people, maybe I'm not sure what percentage can be considered as e-commerce customers. So the size of the market is a limitation for the growth of e-commerce, specifically for products. And logistic facilities and system requirement will increase with the growth of online retailing sector. So I think it will take time. Right now, our concern will be, it's a matter of how fast we can get. Maybe it's a matter of getting something online, maybe a product that you cannot get at the local market. But maybe down the years, probably there'll be a time where we will be worrying about the quality of the product, how it is packaged, how it is delivered, and how fast it's delivered. So that's where the logistic will come and improve the sector. And not to forget these two, the third point is basically about, we all know that we learn from maybe from our schools that we are located at a strategic location. Of course, for e-commerce, we are at a very strategic locations to cater Indian markets. But even for world-class firms like maybe Amazon, Alibaba, I don't know, still that strategic advantage remains. So it's about whether they will be attracted to our country. And the fundamentals of such advanced logistics system can be used to improve local economic sectors. Now I'm talking about just the products, maybe the finished products, but still for agriculture sector, and also the other industrial and business sectors, we can use the fundamentals of how such advanced system operate to improve our own economic sectors. So it is not just about online retailing of finished products, but we can use the essence of how online retailing logistics work to improve the local sector. So it's also something that we can think of. To conclude the talk today, before the discussion, requirement for e-commerce logistic facilities, this is happening everywhere. So the growth of e-commerce, and more firms now start to worrying about logistics, not just the marketplace, but also the logistics with logistics in the e-commerce operation. Location of logistic facilities is important in the context of urban planning. So probably the planners, it is high time to think about where these facilities can be located, given the functionality of this facility and the effects of e-commerce on cities. It's not now. The third point is is to cover the whole effect, how the effect from the consumer changes, and also effect from the firm's dynamics. So as a totality. So we have to think about. It's probably high time to think about e-commerce as an important component in the societal operation or day-to-day life. And finally, maybe scientists will find a vaccine for COVID-19, but however, we have to keep in mind that new normal lifestyles and related practice will still remain in the society. So new normal lifestyle will not go away, although maybe COVID-19 go away, maybe 2-3 years come. But these practices will remain in the society. So we have to live with them. So we have to adapt. Finally, what do you see on the left side? It's a proposal for the LRT. We know that recently it is rejected. Maybe 2-3 years back, we were talking about LRT, but we don't know what's going to happen. This is a public investment. The public money will be spent on these infrastructure projects. But what you see on the right side, the drone deliveries and something I just showed, this is Amazon proposed multi-level fulfillment center. There is more likely that these type of private investor-led projects or investor-led initiatives coming into operation than seeing a public money spent on this project, because we all know that this infrastructure is very important, but still it's a public money, so it may take a lot of time. But for a project like this, it's a firm invest, a private business will invest, so there is more likely that we will see something like this in Sri Lanka before we see something like this. So I'm not going to say what is good, what is important, what is the best, but I'm just trying to see what will come. So with that, thank you very much for your attention, and it's time for the discussion.
Yeah, so now we would like to allow our audience to ask questions if they have any questions. So do we have any questions here? Yes. Nadisha is raising her hand. So if you have any question, you can just unmute and ask your question. If not, you can just type your question to the chat box.
Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. First of all, I must thank for YPF to organize this event, because this is really grateful event for all of us. And also today our resource person Chathura sir, you did a I think it's a grateful discussion for all of us, because it's a new area. So I just wanted to add some things to your discussion. So I also have a lot of questions regarding this topic, because this is an interesting topic for all of us. The condition in Sri Lanka now, I think as Sri Lankan, we also having an opportunity to engaging with these e-commerce sectors than the before this COVID-19 pandemic. We just know the names of this Uber and Alibaba and those type of online things, but after this pandemic, we as Sri Lankan people, we actually use these things, because as university students, we all know that if we uh, do not have chance to go to the canteens or any other food shops, we just get our phone and just browse the Uber and order our foods and all the things. So I think now e-commerce is becoming a growing sector in Sri Lanka also, and these are the things I just wanted to add. And finally, I also thankful for the great discussion that we are having with Chatura sir. Thank you very much, sir, and for YPF committee members. Thank you all for giving us this chance.
Thank you very much, Nadija. I think that is true, because uh, it may take time for Sri Lanka to experience the same e-commerce operation that you see in maybe US, UK, or anywhere else. Because don't get confused that e-commerce is not something in the developed world or maybe in the Western world. It's a system. It's a system to fulfill the need of the consumer. So maybe there are different phases. So what we are experiencing in Sri Lanka is the first phase, where the service sector, and then maybe some food products, and there'll be a level where you will buy most of your stuff online. So it's something inevitable that it will invade our lives. It's sooner or later.
So we still have some time for questions. So we have 40 participants here. Do we have any questions regarding what we were talking? Yes. Yes. Um, can host allow to unmute to the Dr. Chathura? He may have some questions, but he can't unmute himself.
Okay, I think I can see a question in the chat box. There are so many good selling web portals available in the market. How we can integrate this into the service sector? Okay. Yes, that's what I mentioned in the presentation, that what we experience in Sri Lanka is more like there are small scale, maybe household level, individual level people operate e-commerce sites or maybe in the websites or maybe Facebook sites. It's a good sign. It is how a sector grow. So let it grow. Let it be like that. And there will be a time where the consumers start worrying about the quality of the products and how fast it is delivered, and they try to standardize, they try to benchmark. So that is a level where we can integrate this into the service sector. There are a lot of informal practices in Sri Lanka when it comes to e-commerce. I don't think anywhere it is recorded what is sell through e-commerce channels. So maybe a good way of getting through the sales tax maybe. So there are a lot of informal practices attached to the e-commerce sector in Sri Lanka. So I think that is how it is. So you cannot expect everything to be like in Japan or maybe like in US. There is a way that things happen at each country or each system. So maybe our system is a lot of size, individual size. So there will be one level where people, when consumers themselves demand for a benchmarking or standardization, so that is a time where it will be integrated into the service sector. So another question from Chaturthi: in your opinion, what are some of the factors that make Sri Lanka attractive and not so attractive to e-commerce giants? Okay, definitely the main factor of attraction is our location, because the proximity to a large market in India is a factor itself to attract, because, and also not only that itself, but also the labor force that we have, because we all know that maybe the labor force is more characterized by skilled labor who good at IT, good at robotics, maybe learning a lot of ICT. So that is also another factor that may attract the giants to locate their logistics in Sri Lanka. But not so attractive factors, obviously, socio-political reasons, and also the cost of infrastructure and land. I'm not sure, it's depending on the places, and there are a lot of socio-political issues which will come through. That is itself one reason why a lot of manufacturing firms look Sri Lanka as an option, and then they withdraw at the last moment. So probably the natural factors remain the attractive, but still the socio-political context, I'm not sure how far it is going to get this firm. But I'm not so negative about it. There will be a time that it will be one, or maybe not many, maybe at least one or two companies will come in and set up their logistic infrastructure for e-commerce. And the third question I see, and also please raise any question even from the previous two participants. If the answer is not clear, please feel free to ask again. And the third one I see from Chathura Gunawardana. Hello, Chathura. Why Sri Lanka has a low penetration still to e-commerce? What we should do differently? Yes, low penetration. I think if you look at even the developed countries, probably in Japan, the e-commerce penetration is 20%. And 20% for it also vary because Now, for example, the e-commerce service sector may be in Japan very high, but for certain type of products, it is like 20%, 30%. So it takes time because it takes time for people to familiarize. One of the key issues that the literature identified is the trust. Usually in shopping that we always want to touch the product and feel the product. So that is something that people missing in the e-commerce. Now, for example, for this reason, very recently Amazon have a very interesting initiative where the products will be delivered to you, but you have 3 days. If you're not satisfied, you can return it back. So there are strategies that companies adopt to attract more consumers. So the factors that prevent may vary, but in general, one of the reasons why people don't trust is that they cannot get the shopping experience. The second reason I would say is the payment method. I don't think people in Sri Lanka are still believing the credit card payments as a secured payment method. We still have fraud, and we still have there's an issue of trust. So we need to have range of methods where people can pay. So the trust is very important in this whole operation because it developed with the time. Now, one good example, probably during the pandemic, you all know that one of the leading e-commerce sites in Sri Lanka were largely humiliated for what they have done in terms of the price of certain products. So these are the things that really lose the trust of the customer. So it may take time. Maybe I would say given the rate how we are increasing, there are no records of data to see how e-commerce is growing in Sri Lanka. That is a very lacking part in terms of the policy. But if we start recording the e-commerce business and the sales and the consumers, there are different ways people can do that. We will find that there is a considerable growth in this sector. Right now, we make statements based on observation, based on number of sites we see, number of the motorbikes or cars we see in the road. But if we can have real assessment of the assessment on how fast they're growing the sector, we will find that this is the service sector and now start to move to the food goods, the products or the goods. So maybe next 5 to 10 years, it's a time where we start the market is penetrated into wide range of products, and maybe the third phase is where the standardization comes. So maybe next 10 years will be critical, I would say, when it comes to e-commerce, given how it is happening right now. But still, we cannot make predictions because I'm not an expert to make prediction, but this is just based on what I have read and what I have seen with different channels. And I also see a question from Kushani Paris. So can we apply the drones to deliver products in local context effectively? Yes. There are instances where it is delivered. If you just search in the Google or maybe in YouTube, you will see there are a lot of advancements in this sector, because fundamentally it's a question whether it is safe. Now there are a lot of research going in to ensure how a product with different sizes can be delivered. So there are different parameters people take into consideration: the width of the distance that the product must be delivered, and the elevation, and also the capacity of the drone, and the battery capacity, and also the built environment around this particular area. So there are different parameters the researchers consider, but still it is a possibility. I have seen that maybe once the Kapruka tried some delivery through the beach side, not through the land, but they used the beach. Along the beach they tried to deliver, but I think it was a fail due to the wind. But I would say it's probable, it's possible to use drones to deliver, but not everywhere. There need to be a proper assessment to see whether it can safely deliver without having a bad effect on the local people. So there are many places that is used. For example, in UK they tried it, and in certain parts of America they are trying it. So it's not widely applicable, but there is a lot of research and people try to improve it. So there will be a time where it will be used for parcel delivery. Any more questions? Or maybe if it is not clear, please.
About to say something.
Sorry?
Malik sir was about to say something. I hope he had a question.
Yes. Thank you, Virat. It's very nice to see Dr. Chathura after a long time. I think whatever the discussion that we have with COVID, this is the good side of COVID, that we get to meet people and hear what we all have been engaging. So it's very interesting, really nice to see you, hear you, Dr. Chathura, and thank you very much. So, like, based on your interesting presentation and very interesting work, like, one thing that I wanted to like ask from you, you mentioned about central place theory and how the relationship of central place theory with e-commerce. So my question is, now with the central place theory, what we can talk again is about the market range, like the willingness of the customer to travel based on the expectation to buy stuff. And again, like with the previous questions, there are certain limitations where this online delivery product with the scale of the product and like size and the distance and these geographical locations. So in brief, with your experience and with your work, what is the relationship of e-commerce and this delivery with the market range? So let's say if an entrepreneur, so if we want to initiate e-commerce in our business, or if you want to initiate an online delivery system, what range of market that will productively work, whether it is like small scale market range or large scale market range, or how do you see this relationship with e-commerce and market range in brief? Thank you very much, Dr. Chathura.
Okay, thank you, Malit, and thank you. Good to see you after a long time, by the way. And yes, the range depends on the type of products and also the distribution pattern of consumers. So it's also, I mean, I'm not sure whether you get it, like it's depending on the size of the product, size and the characteristics of the product, and also how the settlements are distributed. Now, what I found here is that e-commerce companies locate close to the people. So that means they try to reduce the physical distance they can travel. But of course, we have to keep in mind that when we say a logistic system, it comprises of several segments. For example, if you look at the last mile delivery, there are two key components. One is the logistic facility. Logistic facility is the location where you're going to ship the product to the end consumer. That is, for example, that is the starting point. And there has to be a delivery channel. So in certain countries, for example, now if you look at in Sri Lanka, there are a lot of motorbikes and we use that type of channels to deliver, right? So the distance that a motorcycle can carry a certain type of products vary. So, and also depend on the quality. There are products where you need to have the refrigerated facility. So the type of channel has to ensure that. So it's based on the type of product and also the settlement pattern. I cannot give you a direct answer to say what exactly the range, but it has to be determined based on the product and also the settlement distribution pattern. What I have found with my work is that e-commerce logistic facilities, they try to locate closer. So irrespective of the channel, so that means they have a greater chance of serving a large market. So that's how I probably can answer your question. Not sure whether I answered correctly, but please feel free to continue the discussion if it's not clear.
From Sri Lanka, I Dr. Chathura De Silva, who did a very productive session today, and as well as to the participants who were who are continuously engaging with us with this webinar series. So, yeah. Thank you all for joining with us. Hope to see you all with another productive webinar. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you very much, YPF, for organizing this. Please keep it going. Thank you very much.